I talk to a lot of dads being a youth pastor for half my life, and I think when I talk to them about the things that they're struggling with as a dad and how they parent, what I hear a lot is fear. I hear that they're scared that this is going to happen to their kid. They're scared that my kid's going to do the same thing I did, or my kid's going to end up this way. So fear drives what we do, and it can steer our hearts and our approach in the wrong way. So my parenting has got to come from my walk with Jesus, and knowing that He made me right with God. He's making me new day by day, and my kids doing the same thing. God's doing the same thing in them. So I've really got to join in with Jesus first, and then when I get to them, I'm giving them a real battle cry for their life. Kenny's going to talk to us next about the battle cry.
What's up, dads? Have you ever heard the proverb that says, where there is no vision, people perish? Actually, there's another version that says it this way: where there is no vision, the people run wild. Men, listen to the following stats from fatherhood.com. A child who grows up in a fatherless home has a 32% higher chance of living in poverty, includes 71% of all high school dropouts, and is more than twice as likely to commit suicide. Men, those stats could go on and on and on. Don't take my word for it. Look it up yourself. In fact, if you really do the research, what you'll find across the board is that almost all the negative stats that deal with huge issues such as crime, education, poverty, drug use isn't really as much about rich or poor, city or rural, highly educated or not. It's about daddy or no daddy. At M46, we believe that every man has some vital, sacred, God-given roles, and how he fulfills those roles not only impacts his family, but also the broader community in which he and his family lives. I'm sure there's probably more, but 3 of these vital sacred roles include, number 1, provider. Men, we are called to do our best to financially provide for our families. Number 2, protector. We're called to do our best to physically protect our families. And number 3, priest. At M46, we believe that God has called every one of us to be the spiritual leader of our homes and provide the vision that our family so desperately needs. Okay, at this point, most of you were probably completely with me when I said that God has called us each to be physical protectors and financial providers, but maybe not so much when I start talking about being the priest or the spiritual leader of our home. I'm sure many of you are probably thinking, well, that's what my pastor does, or that's what my wife does. For whatever reason, so many of us men are so quick to be proactive and assertive in so many areas of our life. But when it comes to leading spiritually, we can become so passive even to the point of becoming invisible in that area of life. Here's the deal, men. Our kids are facing a flat-out crazy world. I mean, doesn't it feel like at every turn, the world teaches that wrong is right and right is wrong? Drugs and alcohol are ridiculously accessible. Men, when I was a kid, to get pornography like a Playboy, you had to go through a whole number of steps to make that happen. Now our kids can literally see any pornographic image they want at the click of a button on their phone. The bottom line is our children are facing a dangerous, real world that will destroy them if they're not prepared. Dads, who is going to give them the vision and spiritual leadership they need to navigate this world? Do you remember what Proverbs says happens when there is no vision? People perish or people run wild. Dads, the responsibility we have is huge, but God has called us to it. Let's take just a few minutes right now to look at a story that will certainly encourage us and challenge us, and if we apply it, it will better equip us to be the spiritual leaders of our homes that we're called to be. In Joshua 1, we see the young warrior Joshua, who's been given a huge responsibility to lead the Israelites safely to the Promised Land. Before we really get into it, just a little bit of background information first. First of all, Joshua is taking over for Moses. Not sure if you guys remember this story, but Moses is the guy who got to pray, raise up his staff, and the Red Sea parts. That's the guy Joshua gets to take over for. Next, the first assignment Joshua is given is to take the Israelites through the Jordan River at flood stage. Except he's not going to get to do and have the big moment with the raising the staff. He's just supposed to have the people walk through the river, and when their feet hit the waters will part. Talk about a test of faith in his vision and in his leadership. Finally, when they get across the river on the other side, there's going to be 31 hostile empires ready and waiting to destroy the Israelites. Joshua has a huge responsibility before him. I'm sure he had to feel completely unprepared, unequipped, and maybe even flat out not up to the task. But this is where God steps in and gives Joshua some very specific advice. Listen to what God tells Joshua in chapter 1, verse 9. Joshua, be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Dads, why do you think God told Joshua not to be terrified or discouraged? Because he was about to see some terrible stuff. Think about that for a second. Why would you tell your kid, do not be terrified? Because they're about to experience something that's absolutely awful. Dads, Joshua's story is our story. We have a huge responsibility to lead our families. There are things that are going to be terrifying. There are things that are going to be discouraging. In fact, there are going to be times, probably a lot of them, as we lead our families, that it's going to feel like we're being attacked from 31 different directions. But there is a powerful word for each of us in Joshua 1:9. God begins by telling Joshua, be strong and courageous. Guys, let's take a look at those words because they may not mean exactly what you think they mean. And this is powerful. They derive from the Hebrew words kazak and amatz. The Hebrew word for strength is kazak. Kazak is the strength that enables a man to stand firm in the midst of trouble. Kazak is what enables a warrior to face danger. It's what enables a warrior to run at rather than run away from an enemy. The Hebrew word for courage is amatz. Amatz can be understood as unwavering confidence. It can also be described as, and I absolutely love this, heavenly audacity. Isn't that one of the most incredible phrases you have ever heard? You might be sitting there though and thinking, yeah, that sounds great and all, but I don't have unwavering confidence. And I certainly don't have heavenly audacity. Or you may say, I'm sick and tired of fighting for my family. I'm worn out, I'm discouraged, or I'm fearful, I'm just done. Dads, here's the part that is so easy to misunderstand. It's absolutely essential for us to know where true strength, kazak, and true courage, amatz, comes from. God tells Joshua that strength and courage come from knowing that God is with him wherever he goes. Men, the vast majority of us do all of our fighting from our own strength, our own thinker, our own feeler, our own chooser. The problem is that all of that is so influenced by our flesh, and we quickly find out that our bodies are not strong enough, our minds are not smart enough, and our will is not disciplined enough. But that is not where this type of strength and courage come from. God has placed His Spirit inside of the believer. Remember in our earlier lesson, we are now the temple of God and His Spirit is inside of me. Where does this strength come from? Christ in me. Where does this unwavering confidence come from? Christ in me. Where is this heavenly audacity rooted? Christ in me. Kazak and amatz, strength and courage, does not come from the strength of my body, my thinker, my feeler, my chooser. They are rooted in my identity in Christ, which gives me this heavenly audacity. In fact, it is out of this challenge to Joshua to have strength and courage that was born the Hebrew battle cry of Rak Kazak. Rak is a Hebrew word that simply means a cry of, this is all you need. Men, this isn't just what Joshua needs. It's what we need as we lead our families. Men, I challenge you to embrace this Hebrew war cry as your own. Rak Kazak. So often as we say prayers in times of difficulty and challenges, we say, God, will you please be with me? But God has already spoken clearly that His will, His desire is for you to be the priest of your own home, the spiritual leader for your family. Dads, you can have the unwavering confidence, the heavenly audacity of knowing that God is with you as you fight for the hearts of your children. Oh, and this is where it gets even better. Look back in Joshua 1:3. God tells Joshua, I will give you every place where you set your foot. Was God with Joshua? Yes. But Joshua had to take that strength and courage and step out and intentionally engage the battle. Dads, God was only going to give Joshua the land that his boot took. The same is true with us. Your family, your children, your community are in the midst of a battle and probably one in which they're going to be attacked from many different directions. Will you engage? Will you fight? Will you lead? I believe with all that is in me that it is God's will and desire for you to be the spiritual leader of your home. If you do not step out and fight and lead and provide vision for your children, then who will? Dad, listen to me very clearly. It is time to no longer be passive. God has not left you alone to fight this battle. He's given you a mission, He's given you His Spirit, and He's given you a battle cry. Brothers, listen to me right now. Be strong and courageous. Lead your families. Rock Kazakh.
When I meet with men, one of the things that always seems to come out is that men feel inadequate or ill-equipped to actually be the spiritual leader of their home and the priest of their own home. So this lesson is inspirational for one, but also that idea that we have to move forward and take ground, and God is always with us. That's really, really encouraging to me, because it's not on me. I'm just supposed to be obedient and be the man that I'm supposed to be in my home, and God will take care of the rest. So why don't you share the challenge for this month?
Absolutely, guys. Here's your challenge. Dads, you're the most influential man in the life of your children. Embrace the role not only as physical protector and financial provider of your homes, but also as the priest, the spiritual leader of your family. Remember that you can walk in heavenly audacity knowing that God is with you. Fight for the heart of your children by intentionally taking a day to serve in your community with your child. It can be as simple as doing yard work for a widow, serving meals in a homeless shelter, visiting the elderly, etc. It could be anything you want. Lead them by serving together. God bless you guys. God bless your family. See you next time.